tell by the topic, we're going to get into a very sensitive issue. Witnessing and experiencing a murder and dead body for the first time. First and foremost, no one should ever have to experience that, especially at a young age, man. But we're prone to violence in these type of scenarios when you're out in the streets, gang banging, hustling, and being part of that life. These are the circumstances of reality. And so let me go into my story the first time, okay? I've already experienced so much before all this, of stabbings, shootings, and so forth. I was part of it. I received it, you know what I'm saying, and back and forth, you know. Had homeboys that had died, passed away, been murdered, and so forth, but never witnessed it in the moment of someone just being alive and dead within a matter of seconds. And so this was my first experience ever witnessing that, and it wasn't the last either. So I got out temporarily on that drive-by shooting with a joint suspension. I was only out for like about a month or two, and it was July 6th, 1997. Now, back in the days, everybody knows it used to be cracking out there in San Jose, San Antonio and King, Story King, all the way Allen Rock, Santa Clara Street. We used to go cruising, look for females, maybe a fight. That was the lifestyle back then. So on this day, my homeboy Capone picked me up, Robert. Now, he had a tight-ass fucking black Monte Carlo with T-tops and everything system, and it was a clean ride. It was basically a chick magnet back then, you know what I'm saying? So we decided to hit the strip. We start drinking, you know, pull over. We pull around the side streets all the time, and we start drinking our pisto. You know, back then, the law enforcement, they would usually put they would go out there and they would have certain areas where they would block off to where they'd have to take you a new direction to stop the cruising. So you want to get out there a little early, let them put the cones out, and then go back out there in the streets. So once they shut down Santa Clara Street, everybody starts going to King Road. Now, there was two popular taquerias right there on San Antonio and King. One, Imperial Liquors, and the other one, El Guerrense. Now, El Guerrense is a place where we used to post up all the time. It's where I got in that melee I discussed when we got off with some cats and someone ended up getting stabbed. Same location. And then right behind it is a Sureño neighborhood, believe it or not. So on this day, we're doing our thing. And as we're coming around San Antonio and King, right, we're going to go pull over into that parking lot. And what we seen out of nowhere was a big melee just started to erupt. I mean, it was off the hook. There was probably about at least 40 to 50 people getting off right there, okay? In the process, I started to look, and I started to get out the car because I thought maybe it was Norteños versus Sureños. And what I noticed was it was all Norteños, basically, or those that kind of had that look of what you call a party crew back then. See, there was a lot of homeboys that ran with party crews for a minute. You know, they started wearing those, like, you know, bell bottoms and nice shirts and so forth. So you had a little bit of a mixture out there. And when I witnessed that, I'm already knowing, okay, this is probably homeboys. And I see Norteños getting off with Norteños. And it was just all kinds of stuff. Bottles being thrown, bats being pulled out. One individual was getting stabbed in the process. And we were pulling up slow, watching everything, right? And we're seeing this melee ensue, right? It's continued. It was very short, though. It wasn't that long. Whatever happened, they got off, everybody took off. And right there in the front on King Road, there was an individual with a body right there that was just laying on the floor. They were trying to pick him up. His body was limped. We pulled over right there next to him. The body's like from here to there, right in front of me. My homeboy asked, you know, do you guys need to ride to the hospital? Because he was all bloodied up. And I look at the homeboy. I said, bro, he's dead, bro. And then all I could hear is one of his homeboys yelling, that's my homie, female screaming and so forth, man. And there's nothing really we could do to help the situation out. The dude was right there laying dead. His name was Gabriel Alvarado. Now, later on, I heard that this whole melee incident was one particular group, and I think the other one may have been 9-5, if I'm not mistaken. Now, anybody out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm almost positive they were from 9-5 and some other crew that were getting off. 9-5 was a hood out there by Mount Pleasant. They were homeboys kind of, and you know, they had a whole different style. They were pretty cool back then, though. So after that, you know, I'm seeing him. The same dude was up seconds ago trying to fight, and he gets stabbed from behind, right? And here's a disclaimer: I don't remember who the person is that did the stabbing or whatnot. So if any law enforcement want to come knock at my door or something, I don't remember nothing. This just happened so damn fast, and there was so much action and happening. And I was stuck in between getting out the car and getting off and not. You know what I'm saying? Because I thought maybe, like I said, I thought maybe it was Norteños versus Sureños. but I could tell by the I could tell by the dress attire, it wasn't. And at that time, I'd already been laced not to involve myself in any type of red on red crime. So yeah, he was dead right there. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that kind of was a shocker to my homeboy that was in the car. Like, we left and stuff, and you know, he wanted to go home. He didn't want to be out there in the streets. You know, we've seen homeboys get stabbed, shot. I've been stabbed and so forth, man. But to sit there and see someone who is actually lifeless, there's no other experience but to see it, man. You know, it'll affect you. It'll change you, you know, because it just goes to show that, man, your life can be taken at any time, you know. And I think this current case still, I'm not sure if they ever solved it. Last time I checked, it was a cold case, you know, but word on the streets is, you know, it was a red on red incident that was just escalated by different crews, different, you know, over females and so forth, man, which is common. Most red on red situations were always over a female or over a homeboy from a particular hood that ends up in another hood, and he gets jammed up and ends up getting jumped. So next, you know, their homeboys are mad, and that's how the funk, you know, used to kick off back then. You know, yeah, I won't ever forget that day, you know, because you know, I've seen dead bodies over the course of my life. You know what I mean? I've seen people get shot, killed in front of me, and all that, man. But this was at an early age when I was, like I said, just getting into the mix as far as, you know, being about that action. You know what I'm saying? And you know, to me, it was kind of at that time, it didn't really faze me. It fazed my homeboy more than anything. You know, he was messed up over it, man. To this day, he still talks about it. I'm like, man, we were gangbanging back then. What you expect? You know, and that's kind of the unfortunate, you know, circumstances about living in that lifestyle, is that you become immune to things that should affect you. You know, this should have affected me more than what it did. To me, it was just, oh, it happened. Oh, well, you know, and I think, like I said, with me wanting to be that gangster, having that ego needing to be filled and be pacified and recognized, that I knew that killings and murders and stabbings were just the cost of doing business. So me experiencing it, it just didn't faze me. And it's not that I had a sociopath mentality or anything, because, you know, I had a little remorse for him losing his life and his loved ones right there. But that's just the everyday life that I just started to experience and learn and be taught about. You know, these things happen, you know, and that's the thing that's wrong in some of these communities, is that we're allowing death to become too common and exposed to our youth. We can't let them think that people dying on the streets is acceptable. We have to promote a whole different direction as far as, look, you know, people that are committing crimes like this are not good people, you know, and teach our kids that, instill those thoughts, instill those values, you know, because a lot of times, man, like I said, the kid out there in the streets is the most invisible person. And if he doesn't get the attention and direction that he needs at a young age, he's going to be exposed to everything around him, which is things like this: killings, drugs, alcohol, robberies, all this stuff, man. Do you think we just wake up one day and we decide to become criminals? You know, people, places, and things dictate who you are. And as parents, we got to have a stronger impact. Even if we live in these areas that are prone to gang activity and killings and so forth, we got to teach our kids to stay away from that, and that it's not acceptable. You know, because otherwise they're going to adapt and for survival. You know, we adapt to our surroundings and our terrains just based upon the fact to survive. Anybody can almost adapt anywhere. Now, it could be a shocker at first from something that you're used to, but eventually you're going to get used to it and you're going to acclimate to your environment. And that's the whole thing to this message is, you know, experiencing violence and so forth at such a young age will make you immune to human emotions and feelings, because you expect this to be the normal way of life when it really is not, you know. Anyways, yeah, Gabriel Alvarado, man, sad story, man. You know, I don't know what the issue was all about. I did witness the melee. It was off the hook. It was a good one. They were getting off. They were getting busy, you know. And you know, sometimes we think that, you know, we have a track record of coming out on top in these scenarios, or we can fight, or we got hands, or we're with that action. It doesn't mean that you can't get it. Anybody can get it. You know, actives, dropouts, you know what I mean, inactives, just regular civilians too. You know what I mean, get caught up sometimes in the crosshairs. You know, and we have to be a little bit more responsible in teaching our kids right from wrong, and not to put themselves in those situations. I should have never been out there at such a young age, cruising back in the days and getting in fights and stabbings and so forth, man. You know, but it became the norm. And that's the whole thing, that we as parents need to set better examples. Like I said over and over again, you know, we guide our children, not the outside things that are occurring. We can shelter them in some senses away from it. You don't want to shelter too much. You want to keep them informed of what's really going on, but you want to give them the right suggestions of how to deal with it. You know what? You're not going to go over here because there's too much gang activity. You could get murdered. You know what I'm saying? No, I don't want you hanging out with those friends. They're going to juvenile hall, the boys ranch, and so forth. You got to set those boundaries with your kids. Otherwise, they're going to start gravitating to what their friends do. Like I said, people, places, and things. Friends play a big role in that, man. Because I don't think I would ever want my kid to experience witnessing shootings, stabbings, and murders in his presence, because everybody's going to be affected by that different. You know, PTSD is real in the streets. Violence and so forth. You know, there's certain things to this day that I do naturally when I go into certain neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm right there, you know what I mean, where it's a straight cutty area, man. When I hit a red light, I make sure I have enough space in front of me to where I can fucking peel out if someone's tries to catch me slipping. I have my seatbelt off. That way I can get out the car faster if need be. There's little things that, being around these scenarios, you start to you just acclimate to your daily life, man. It's not the way to live, man. You know, it's better to teach them right and teach them to stay away from these things, because, man, I can say this, being around so much criminal element and violence and so forth, and seeing the recognition that was given to those that partook in these type of events, it made me want to be just like these individuals. I wanted to raise my hand when I went to prison. I'll stab them. I'll do it. You know, it just became the mindset, you know, and we got to break that cycle. Anyways, man, I thought that I would share this, man. I think this is a good story to understand what, you know, your environment can create in any individual, and that there's ways to shelter our kids, you know what I mean, without sheltering them from the world. That's the key thing. You don't want to shelter your kids to where they don't understand the realities of it. You want to shelter them away from being involved in those activities, being away from those ventures, but not from the realities of the world. Because I think that's the biggest mistake, is when we don't teach our kids what the world is really like out there, and we don't want to provide them the insight to secure themselves. Security starts within yourself first and foremost, and that's the same thing with your kids. You got to provide that security for your kids. Anyways, your boy Flacco, man, I'm out.